Hey designers, we're taking a break to talk about Design Live.
Design Live by Syncly is one of the design industry's leading software programs for kitchen design.
You may know them better by their former name, 2020, which has been offering professional design software for over 30 years.
And Design Live is so much more than just beautiful renderings.
From complete manufacturer catalogs that are built to save you time creating your drawings, to the largest community of designers for ultimate collaboration.
Which means your projects get designed quickly and accurately.
Design Live is developed for easy collaboration, and it integrates with the other systems to make quoting smoother and clients happier.
Book a demo with an expert today at syncly.com/HYDC and save $200 on Design Live using coupon code HOTPOD200 until August 31st, 2024.
That's CYNCLY.com/HYDC.
Welcome to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
I'm Rebecca Plum, your big sister.
And I'm Sean Surha, your GBF.
We're not that hot or that young,
but we believe it's a state of mind that helps us build adaptable and profitable businesses.
We rely on the support of our design besties to get through each day.
So let's explore the emotional, practical, and humorous sides of being interior designers.
Welcome to the club. Hey, Sean.
What's up, Rebecca?
Hey, Jen.
Hi, guys. How's it going?
Good. We have one of our OG hotties, our good friend Jennifer Ramsey, here today.
Long time in the making here, huh?
It's like a pinch me moment, guys. I knew you on here before I knew you in your life. So it's like,
that's true.
Oh, that is true.
Even before happy hour, before all of that.
Yeah, I was just low-key stalking, I guess.
Ripped from the headlines. Yeah, okay. I forgot about that. But you're local to me, so you're in the greater Sacramento region. Mm-hmm. And so we became friendly, and then you joined happy hour, so full disclosure. Mm-hmm. And now we're in like a little private mastermind with a couple of other of our happy hour friends. So you and I get to spend a lot of time together, but we've also done markets with Shawnee.
Yes. We're all market buddies now, and it's like the most fun. I look forward to it every year. I'm going twice this year. You guys have to come.
Oh, we're going. So the reason why I wanted to have you on is not just because we love you, but because I have seen, so I think we've now known each other for probably a year and a half, I would guess.
Yeah. I think we first met at Market in Vegas in 23. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So,
and wait, really?
We haven't known each other that long.
No, maybe 22.
No,
I don't.
Further back, because you joined Happy Hour, and that was before.
When did Happy Hour start? Let's base it off of that.
October 22.
Okay, so then
it would have been the market before that.
Okay, so 2 years? I don't know time.
I don't know.
Time is a contract.
It's been a while.
Okay, but it's been a while. But also, I feel like, so that very first market, you weren't really purchasing a lot of furniture for clients. You were mostly focused on construction.
I was a fish out of water, honestly. And
you were doing a lot of construction.
Yeah,
like you had a lot of experience in construction. Mm-hmm. And as always, I'm like the pusher for like, you guys got to buy wholesale. But I have seen you. So we share accounts with Happy Hour. So we get to, I have visual on the amount of orders you're doing. And it's grown tons. Like you're now like outselling all of us. So I just wanted to talk more with you and just see like how you've done that and what your process is. So this is about like selling furniture. So I guess just back up. Give us a little bit of who.
Give us the Jen story.
The Jen story. All right. Well, I'll try and condense it. So I do interior design since I was a kid because my aunt did it. She had her own business back in the 80s and 90s. And so I had that sort of mentor, I guess you could say. And so someone showed me the way of it all. And I was like, oh, that's a really cool job. And I was the typical designer rearranging my bedroom all the time and whatnot, and drawing plans. And so it was kind of a no-brainer to then go study it in school. So I went and got my 4-year bachelor's degree in interior design.
Chico.
Go Chico, shout out. And then I got a job immediately and was with a high-end luxury designer in the Bay Area. And I was with them for 4 years. I learned a ton. I also got a little burnt out. And so when myself and another designer, we got laid off. It was during the recession, the Great Recession. And
2009?
It was, 2009, 2010, around there. Like they held on to us for a while and then it just wasn't sustainable. And so I was ready for the break anyway. So I went and just got an admin job. I was living in San Francisco. And, time went by. I met my husband. I moved out to this area and we had babies back to back. And my aunt, that was my mentor, back when I was a kid, I was showing her some plans for my own house that I drew. And she was like, you need to come, just space plan for me. Just do this. And just once a week, just come with me. And I'm like, well, okay. Like, dabbling in it sounds okay, but that sounds fine. Sure.
Like you weren't interested in doing it on your own or starting a company at that point.
I would never go back to it. I was never going to be a business owner. Yeah. And at that point, I had been out of it for maybe 4 or 5 years, and I didn't really know how to get back into it at that point. So, and I had babies at home. I didn't know, what life was going to be, and so I started going down to her office, once a week, and then it was like she just kind of slyly be like, you could just start your own business, and I was like, well, what would that look like? I don't want to sell things. Like, I don't want to do that. She's like, no, you can just consult. It's fine.
That's a slippery slope.
Oh yeah. And she was like, this is all you have to do.
Famous last words.
Famous last words, because then she encouraged me. And in January 2019, we had been working on a couple big projects together. And I officially opened my own Ramsey Interiors in January of 2019. And everything just kind of fell into place. I've been so lucky with who I've met and who I've gotten to work with in the timing of life, and been connected with some really amazing contractors. And it just kind of has grown from there. And we're 5.5 years in. And now it's a big thing.
That goes by
for
so
me.
fast.
It's bigger than I ever thought it would be. So,
and I'm just going to ask, like, I don't know, but how many people are on your team?
So I have a full-time design assistant now and a part-time administrative assistant. And yeah, we're a team of 3. It's kind of the perfect spot for me. And I don't know. It's a good place. Yeah.
So I know you do a lot with Tankersley construction. So you do a lot of larger kind of whole home remodels, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We do big remodels. We started small. We started with just single bathrooms, single kitchen. And even though I said I was never going to sell things when I first started my business, it just kind of needed to happen. So I know designers often say, not a salesperson, but we are, we're constantly having to sell ourselves. We're constantly having to sell our process, our designs. It's just how you have to look. Like you can't look at it like you're a salesperson. It's just, what you're talking about, and you have to be confident. And I kept designing these kitchens that we'd get to the end. And, when you're new, those photos mean everything to you. They do now too. But when you're new, that's how you got more business. And I would be filming a kitchen or shooting a kitchen, and we'd have no counter stools because the client was going to get them, but they don't know that we need them for the photo shoot. Right. So it was just like, I didn't have full control over the space. And then my first furnishing project, we did a kitchen and living room built-ins and a fireplace. And it was like, well, what are we going to do in this living room? And it just kind of started there. And I saw how much you make furniture selling.
That's the addicting part. Damn it.
I was like, oh, I like that.
Well, and it's just adding value to the client too. It's not just like we're out there money grubbing. Like we're giving them a better product. And service. Like they aren't just feeling responsible to, like if they only know big retailers, then they're not getting as good of a product as we can sell them and as interesting or cohesive of a design. So we're doing
And
this.
exactly. And they're hiring us because they're overwhelmed, right? They don't, and that's kind of my ideal client, someone that's overwhelmed that doesn't have time. So they are overwhelmed by their kitchen remodel or home remodel. So why wouldn't they be overwhelmed with furnishing it? Because clearly they want it to look a certain way. They want it to be just right for them. So why not help them with that? Because honestly, in the scheme of things, the price, yes, they have to pay for our time, but the cost of the pieces, if they were going to larger retailers, is not that different. So
that's very true.
Yeah, and they get a little bit more out of it and a lot of support. Like we all know a lot of this stuff goes wrong or damaged. Like it's still happening, even at retailers. And
the
they have no
back orders even these
recourse.
days.
Oh yeah.
It's like COVID times again, guys. It's weird.
It is. It's like random things.
I've had some vendors that are just like months out. I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Well, then let's go back to, so whenever that was, January 2022, did we decide?
Yeah, when sure. Say that. Let's just
when we met at Vegas Market?
At that market, yeah.
That sounds right. Yeah.
So what did so you were feeling a little like shy about getting into furniture sales at that point, but you knew you kind of should. So what did your journey look like from there?
So I can't remember if at that point I had my biggest project to date. I think we were just getting started on the construction of it.
I feel like you had a project that you knew in mind that you were like, okay, I need to step up to this one. Yeah.
And
I definitely can't remember the timeline.
That's going back to if hotties are listening, where this is a project with Tankersley Construction, right? And so we talked with them in episode 105, which seems like a long time ago, but they really talk about how their whole process is like, it's us and designers are in at the very earliest possible stage. So that's like a project like this that you way ahead of when it's actually going to be done, you're already involved for years, right?
So for example, we just wrapped a project out in Auburn, California, and the day of the install was the day after the client signed the contract with me. So she signed with me. We brought on Tankersley and we designed and planned their remodel, did the remodel, and then day after the 1-year anniversary, moved all the furniture in.
Dang.
So it's
really long-term planning.
Long-term, but we established the furniture at the beginning. It's a day one. You inquire with us, that furniture is a big part of this.
So how do you let them know that? Like when do you start talking about it?
So I filter everyone through my website, no matter who, but you have to go to my website and fill out a client inquiry form. And with that, you automatically get an email. I use Dubsado, so it automatically emails out once that form is submitted. And it's my investment guide and the Hot Young Designers procurement guide. So I changed it to my branding.
Not sponsored. No, I'm just kidding.
Not sponsored.
It's called the Furnishing Budget Guide now, right, Sean? We did rename it.
Yes. Oh no, you're talking about you're talking about the client purchasing guide is the one you're saying that explains the whole process of buying things with designers.
Yes, purchasing guide.
So,
that's right.
Assuming they read it, honestly, I've noticed most people don't read anything. So
that's true of all things. Yeah. In banking, it was like that too.
It's like I'm guilty of it too. So, but in my investment guide, on one single page, I have what to expect the average cost of rooms to be for furniture. So we have, entry. You can expect it to be around $5,000. And then it lists what a typical entry has. So a console table, a mirror, a lamp, maybe a small bench. for a rug. And that is the starting price for all these rooms. So living room, starting price, $20,000. Sofa, 2 chairs, rug, coffee table, and table lamp. And it just goes through, lists it. So it's right there in front of them. And I reference it pretty often when I have these early conversations with the clients. So the goal is that they read that and then book a call with me, because on that email, there's a link to my call schedule and they can book themselves a phone call with me for that discovery call. And
yeah, I love this page. So you shared it with us. So it's a suggested furnishing budget is what you're calling it. And yeah, it's just like a grid. Like it's not like
spreadsheet
super detailed, but it does just give like an initial number. So if somebody's bowled over by spending $20,000 on a living room, which we all know is like very much like the minimum.
By the time you add up all those pieces, that's
to do
where we're going to get
design.
I tell people, go on Pottery Barn, drop things in your cart.
Yeah.
What's that total? It's not different. So
yeah. They've just never done that exercise of seeing what everything in their house. It's probably like a lot. I'm just having this moment because we're dealing with insurance stuff separately, like working on all our coverages for Sean and I. But part of that was like looking at what's in our home and being like, what needs to be, what does the replacement value of all of that need to look like? Even just with what we have, which is not all like newly furnished stuff. And it's shocking how much it's just loaded into our houses.
Well, a lot of people aren't used to buying everything at once. So that's where the number just gets kind of big.
That's true.
But you're screening them and like letting them know if they can't handle this, then they don't need to keep going probably.
Yeah, exactly. And chances are they're not a good fit. But honestly, anyone coming looking for a low budget kitchen at this point isn't going to be a good fit. And it's just not even possible anymore. Let's be honest. So
unless they're doing everything themselves.
They'd have to. And I don't typically take that.
You don't want that anymore.
As a full service, right?
No.
It's a great small package design consultant situation, but that's another episode from you guys. Yeah. So, if they read it, it looks good. We take the phone call. And, I took a sales class last year that was really eye-opening in getting that initial conversation going. It was a bit of an investment, but it just kind of teaches you how to talk to people and get to the bottom of what they're looking for. And honestly, you're always trying to find their pain and establish that pain point. And like I mentioned before, their pain is typically they're overwhelmed and they need the guidance. So, the idea of selecting everything and making their home look just right because they want it to look like that Pinterest photo or whatever, that's their pain, or they're busy and they don't have time. So you kind of have to play on that a little bit and just, emphasize that that's how you're going to help them.
How do you get that information?
Just asking the right questions. I always start the conversation by really listening to them and taking the notes. I'd say 90% of the people have the same situation. And they're just, they're just looking for help. So to them, kind of explaining our process and asking the right questions. And maybe it's in a way of, it sounds like to me, you're really overwhelmed by the idea of this and you're really looking for someone to guide you and kind of asking questions in the right way for them to almost answer it themselves. So
it's like that paraphrasing and empathy kind of part of it is very like key to drawing out the way they're feeling, but then directly tying it to the thing that you're going to do that like, oh, these are in it. Now they're like, you can't untie these things from each other. Like if I am overwhelmed, I have to get help. It's not like be overwhelmed and not have your help.
Yeah, exactly.
And reinforcing what you're hearing. Like I've been doing that a lot lately too. And it's like a little bit of like what I learned in marriage counseling. Like, okay, repeat what you just heard him say. Like, And sometimes it's kind of hard because if your brain is used to just racing ahead to your answer, you're not really actually listening. So if the exercise is, okay, you're going to repeat back what they just told you. And then I think it really makes them feel heard and start trusting. So the trust process earlier.
Exactly. And that's what this is. And we're forming a relationship with these people. I always tell them, like, we're going to really get to know each other. We're, you know,
Yeah.
so Sean, you're like,
we're stuck with each other for better or worse for a while.
Better or worse for at least a year a lot of times.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, and there's quiet times, there's not quiet times. And it's a lot of personality juggling.
And stress is guaranteed.
Such
Like
a stressful process. So, and I find that as the designer, you're kind of, I call myself the hand holder to them. So you're the one that's there to ease their stress a lot of times, kind of good cop, bad cop with contractor. And it doesn't need to be that way. But since I'm not the one like in the throes of the construction, it kind of tends to go that way. Yeah. So, but in that conversation, you have to talk budget. You can't skip over that. You have to make that a point in that first call and talk about their budget for construction and what their all-in is, and it needs to sound realistic. So
was that a challenge for you to bring that up in the first call? Like when you started moving to that, do you find that was a hurdle for you?
It took some getting used to. I think I got used to it prior to taking the sales class, but the sales class certainly helped get to it because there's a conversation funnel basically of getting to that point. And the entire time you're trying to figure out if I'm a good fit for client and if client's a good fit for me. And you even tell them that, you know, you state that, you know, if at any point in time you feel like I'm not a good fit for you and I feel like I'm not, you know, and vice versa, please, can I tell you? And I'd like for you to tell me, is that okay? And
you say that during that call?
Yeah, there's consent that you do, right? Like you said at the beginning. I remember this.
I do. I kind of start in the beginning with that, and I guess I should have led with that. But yeah, I make them kind of consent to this conversation, and then give them the go ahead to dive into their story. So
yeah, because then
really
it's like we're really dating and I'm interviewing you too. I know that is it scary to say that? I feel like I'd be so nervous.
I honestly, I had to write it out at first. I had to like have a script and
like write the exact like it's what you're describing in sales culture is sort of like permission statements of just like, I'm saying this because it probably could happen, but it's also reminding you that if you're the buyer, like in their case, the client, it's like you have control of your destiny in this. Like you're having to give me that consent or approval, and you know you have an out. Like you're not stuck. And I think a lot of times clients feel like, oh great, I'm already committed to this. I'm stuck with it, or I have to do this, but it's not true. Like you're a willing participant in this.
It's all of us. And I feel like once you give them that permission, and I've had this happen where they realize that I'm not the best fit for them, and they circle back to that and they say, okay, so I don't think that I'm a good fit. This isn't sounding right for me. And I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. That sounds great. No, I do wish you well, and good luck on your remodel.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What's the name of the sales? Because I don't think we've talked about that, but what's the name of the sales course that you took?
It's a Sandler Sales System.
Heard of them before I'm talking to you about it.
We can put a link in the notes. I can send you guys the link to my instructor.
Because it's a long term, like it was like a committed.
I signed up for the year. I didn't fulfill the year, if I'm being honest. But the first, I think it's 6 or 8 weeks is the initial course. And it's really just getting this conversation established and learning about it, because there's a psychological aspect to it as well. And some people are really, really good at it. And I think I got what I needed from it and was able to kind of move on. But the coach is phenomenal.
Yeah, I think that's good to point out. What you're saying is like there are levels to where you're going to need like a full series. And if you're like, no, I've gotten to my goal with that, it's okay to like admit that. Not that we're saying ditch a course halfway through, but
No, but it was just, I think I lasted 8 or 9 months. Like it was a while.
yeah.
So, and it was just, I was coming up on a busy season in life and knew that it was just going to be too much at that point. But
Mm-hmm.
I see the coach still at networking events and he's great. So,
Okay. We'll put that link in the show notes. Why this system? Or like now that you've done it, like what do you think it helped you with compared to anything else you researched? Not
it just, Steve Tankersley recommended it. He had used it for his own business and highly recommended it. Saw that I was struggling a little bit, and so hooked me up with, introduced me to the coach. And I don't like reading like the how-to books as much, and then I'm not great at applying them. And I've gone to conferences, but those are great in the moment. It's what you do with it. So you need like a constant practice of these things in order to make yourself better. It needs to be ingrained in you in a way. And so it's something I still have to work on. If I go a while without having a lead and then I finally have a phone call, I have to like go through and remind myself still.
Like re-practice your pitch kind of.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Hey, hotties, we have way more for you over on the Hot Young Designers Club blog.
It's kind of like having an internet home base that we've been wanting to start.
Yeah, we're over there doing designer features, sharing industry news, and some business updates.
We've always wanted to be able to share our inspirations, so we needed a long-form place to do it, and now we have it.
You got it. So head to hotyoungdesignersclub.com and check out the blog.
So going back to your budget talk, like how do you frame that with a new lead?
So I ask what their initial budget is. Let's say they're doing a kitchen remodel and living room or something, and they have a realistic, $200,000, $250,000 budget, because it's what things cost now.
Yeah, it's wild.
And when I hear that they have realistic expectations, that's a good sign. And I mentioned having a purchasing minimum with our full service. And I explain why. And it's honestly about just having a completed space and I use my past experiences of having so many remodels where the client is done and a year later, they don't have a finished space. It's not done. They don't have their furniture. They are still looking for counter stools because they're second guessing themselves, which is why they hired you to begin with. Right. So, but just applying the same rules that you have in a remodel to selling the furniture, but you have to get that early. You have to establish it early. So
do you look at it like you have to show them their future pain point because they don't recognize it yet? Is that like a way of looking at it?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it needs to be pointed out to people.
Like the counter stool. I mean, our friend Claire is working with a couple. They've been looking for counter stools for 2.5 years or something.
Oh
I mean,
God.
it's like an extreme situation.
That's super.
We're just never going to be happy with any
I don't
option.
think I could hang on for that long.
I'd be like, well, I'm going to see myself out. Great party. Bye.
And she is actually like helping them. But if they're on their own, like they'll never see those stools.
No, they're never going to buy anything.
Just going to stand at their counters or have some like Costco fillers.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like just put something there now at this point. Like,
yeah. But then they're just going to live with that. And they're never going to be happy. Right. So,
right. And they went through this entire construction process and spent a lot of money, but they still feel unfinished and unsatisfied, which that's really sad.
Exactly. And so it's giving them what they're looking for. They see your pretty portfolio images on your website. They want that. They want their stuff to look like yours, right? So it's just getting that. And so you have to talk about it. You have to work through it. Sometimes if they're not convinced on the budget, I do send out the budget calculator that you guys created and make them do that exercise. Honestly, I haven't had to use it that often, but
like as a convincing them this is what it will cost tool, you mean?
Yeah. but using the sheet in the investment guide, referencing that is really important. And so, you know, you take that, you talk about your minimum purchasing requirement, and I base my minimum purchasing requirement off of that sheet in the investment guide. So if I know we're doing a dining room, a living room, and a kitchen, I'm tallying those average costs and putting that in my contract.
So that's a good idea, because I kind of try to figure it out every time, but it's basically doing the same thing.
Because honestly, if you have like a $60,000 purchasing minimum, you're going to go over that, and they're not going to look at it as like the end all be all at that point. If it goes from 60 to 65 or 70, it's, you could use it as a budget, and I'm always respectful of their budget as long as their budget is realistic.
So you're building it. It's sort of like, this is in your investment guide. What I'm hearing you say is that's sort of like the minimum number you're going to spend on each of those rooms that's given as an example in that. And if they're signing on, you're saying, great, we're in agreement. That minimum 10 I put for that room is what we're going to spend in your dining room or whatever it is. And that the next conversation is, but then we're going to dial in further onto what you're going to spend at or above that level. And they know that that's sort of the minimum starting point for everything.
And I'll go back to my, last project. I'll take a look at what it ended up costing just to make sure that those numbers are still realistic. So I'm always checking myself just to make sure.
Yeah. So the minimum expenditure, like I have it written in my proposal, like it is not a budget. It's really just what I need to make this project work. For me and give you a finished result.
Exactly. Because honestly, the design fees at this point now, especially now that I have a staff, myself and 2 other people, those design fees pay the bills, the
overhead.
So, and the furnishing gives me my margin. So it's kind of necessary.
You become dependent on it for lack of a better word.
Exactly. So I'm also not drowning and my team isn't drowning in, 10 remodels in phase 1 or whatever. And it helps us pace ourselves a little bit better.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this idea of unfinished work. And I feel like that phrase, to use it with the client and internally, is really powerful. Because if it's just like, I don't do unfinished work, it's really what it is. And that tells them that, I would get an unfinished project if I didn't do this purchasing part. And it's telling you, like, that's another unfinished project I can't photograph. Great.
And sometimes that's okay. I still take those, but it's to get true full service out of us. It's a part of the phase of the design, and once they sign on with us and they agree to all this, we're scheduling that furniture meeting in that kickoff meeting for the remodel. So they know it's happening.
Like it's part of the process. So you're scheduling, I'm assuming, like materials and finishes and then furnishing. How much do you schedule out in the beginning?
We schedule out everything at least by week. So we anticipate, and this goes along with our pre-construction practice. So we're at this meeting with our contractor, architect, if necessary, and establishing all these deadlines with everybody. So, we're scheduling our initial concept presentation, our hard materials, our cabinet meeting, our plumbing fixture meeting, and when we are supposed to have all our deliverables to the contracting team, and then the week of the furniture presentation as well. And that typically is in a line with when construction starts. I like to have furniture being presented like the same month or so as the hammer starts swinging on their home.
That's really smart.
What's the logic with that timing?
It also depends on what type of construction it is. Obviously, with a new build, we probably wouldn't be presenting at the same month of the construction starting. But if it's like, let's say, a kitchen remodel and living room or whole home or something, like right now we have a whole home remodel that just started. We're in the revision phase of our furniture at this point. So proposals haven't gone out yet, but we anticipate this project just demoed maybe 3 weeks ago. And the client is supposed to be in their home by September, October, I believe. So mid fall. And I believe, I'm sure I'll get corrected. I'm not great with dates off the top of my head.
We're not quoting you.
Yeah. So anyway, my goal is by first part of July, we're having all those orders go in so that we can account for any sort of back orders, any sort of damages that come in that we can get traded out.
Right.
And ideally, we do one install. It's typically one and like a tiny one at the end. So,
that really is so helpful, having a strong construction team that is, I'm sure you're aligned with those weekly schedules. Like they're putting that into place.
But even I work with several contractors. Yeah. So it's just about communicating. Typically, if your contractor is using Builder-Trend, they're a little bit more organized, honestly.
Right.
So
contractors listening, look into Builder-Trend.
Yeah, it's very robust. So that allows the contractor, even if they don't have a client or designer facing calendar, their back end's a little bit more organized. So I just call them and say, hey, when are you looking for this to wrap? And just stay in constant communication once it's time to start scheduling the install so that that they're not still trying to tile while you're moving furniture in.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Or you're storing stuff for an extra 4 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
So have you had issues? Like, I feel like that's really smart from the timing standpoint, but also the psychology of money. Like I have found in those, once construction starts, it's like halfway through construction when things start like being change orders start happening.
Sick of spending money. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You want to get their money before they get sick of spending the money.
Yeah, or they decide to move the water heater or like start, like Sean and I were just talking about this, like adding all these other things that are like, that's great, but you're eating into my furniture budget.
That's fine. You really need reverse osmosis filtering now? Like,
well, and that also goes.
What is a sofa?
What about my sofa?
Yeah.
But that also goes hand in hand with having a team that does a pre-construction process, because a lot of those things are getting determined early on. Rarely do we have, it's pretty rare that we have like a super surprise change order in that way, but still, like I still want to get their money before like drywall starts going up and the dust forms,
Mm-hmm. Totally. And I do know that some clients possibly listen to this. So it isn't just about getting their money. It is about getting their finished project or product. Like otherwise, we're trying to help them be happy at the end. Basically.
But also, do you want to be in surgery and then the anesthesiologist is like, do you want the good painkiller halfway through? Like, no, like, please let me decide that before I'm going through and it feels like I'm in duress, which I would rather be as a consumer calm, collected, have my options ahead of me before it's an emergency, making decisions on what to do with my money. It's not great to just keep spending it, but it's that idea of, I made this decision when I was in a good place to spend this and I knew and I prepared for it versus
just reacting. Yeah.
Yeah. And like of course there's a business deal. Like, yes, we want to make money. Our contractor makes money. We're making money here. That's not
I don't mean it in like get their money and like let's get them, but it's like let's.
No, it's not a manipulation.
No, but
they're going to be way more frustrated.
Yeah,
they're going to be
while they're excited. So.
Totally, and they're going to be happier in the long run if they have a nice new sofa to go with their new water heater. They're not going to be excited about that.
But I'm always like I've had like the time where I like got to pick the car I wanted and planned for months and got to enjoy the process of finding the right car for me. And that was way more exciting than when I had a really terrible accident and my car got totaled and I just had to go out quickly because how am I going to get to work? Like,
and get what was there.
Yeah. And it's like that opposite experience as a consumer of just, I really wish I had been able to pick this and do it the right way instead of this like reactive, urgent process, which is what you're trying to help them with.
Well, yeah, I've gone through a remodel. I think you guys have too. It's exhausting. Like, I don't like it. And so when you get to the end of it and everything's all pretty, but it's not done. It's just like, it actually makes you more exhausted, and so.
Well, and dissatisfied.
And then you start nitpicking the little things from the construction. We love to give them that like, aha, walk-in HGTV moment, right? Yeah. Where they just get to come home and throw their bags down and be home. And we've done that a few times in the last month. And they are so excited. They love it. They are so happy, and it's done.
It's done. I know you had a really cool photo shoot the other day that I got a sneak peek of that. Yeah, it's like complete. I also think it's that back to not trying to get a sale in the middle of construction is the feeling of being touched out. Like moms who've had toddlers know this feeling of like, stop touching me, stop saying mom, like, I don't want to hear, I just need like no contact. So I feel like when you're the designer, like, and maybe they're living in this house, maybe they're hearing from the contractor 100 times a day. And then you're like, okay, well, what about window treatments? Yeah. And they're just like, don't ask me another thing for another $1. Like, they're just tired.
So we're the toddlers?
We're all toddlers. They're the mom and the contractor.
Subcontractor. Yeah, they're the mom. Yeah.
It's just you're tired of just being asked stuff, just asked to spend money on stuff. Even if it's all legit and it's all necessary, it's just very tiring, especially if there's any amount of stress around the budget.
Yeah. And so it goes back, and this is for every trade that deals with what we do, have to be the contractor. It's setting the expectations. We are constantly having to set the expectations, meet the expectations. And so with the furniture, if we can get ahead on that and everything, just get ahead on it and know that this is just part of the process. This is what has to happen. They will be a lot more receptive to it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I love that. So when you're doing those initial furniture presentations, you're putting everything in it then. Like I mentioned window treatments. I feel like that's like the one that I kind of have gotten screwed on a couple of times.
I will, I'm not the greatest at that part either. It tends to come later. It just depends. I've done it both ways. And that's a hard one. I still struggle with knowing like what that will cost because it just depends on the size of the windows. And it's a hard one to estimate, right? So
I know, but I feel like
come
it's
back
something
with that. But if I know like the room has to have draperies or that kind of thing, I'll at least put the sample in the main presentation. So
yeah, Sean and I have been talking about this a little bit because it is something that they do need, like, especially if they have neighbors, which most people do. Like, they get in the house and they're like, oh shit, I'm naked. Like, there's
the lights are on at night.
Yes. And they can look into your new upstairs big window above your soaking tub. It's like, hello.
And that along with, it's a big ticket item. People get like really overwhelmed by how much it can cost.
Yes.
Even just for like honestly, even just for vinyl
Basic.
rollers or like a natural woven or any of that, by the time you're doing 40 new windows, it's a lot of money.
Like cellulars will add up if it's a whole house.
Expensive even.
And that's without putting a lot of design into it or like choosing fabrics and custom stuff.
You haven't done anything super pretty or thoughtful yet by that point, and you've still spent a lot of money. So
to me, that's something just as my internal experience is I'm moving up in my process because it's then like I have a client right now that I finished the construction and they realize they have a need. And so they're antsy because they don't have it. And I'm like, oh, I'm trying, but like it takes time to get them in. So, but it's a really uncomfortable position after for them if they like literally people can look into their house.
Yeah. Into your new living room or into your
they're
kitchen.
On their own again, and now they're going to Home Depot or whatever, getting either the same exact product, which we could have sold them and had a opinion on and profit on, or they're getting something that's like, oh, that doesn't go.
Like you put mini blinds in there, guys. Seriously,
or vertical blinds I had in my college apartment. Like, no. I know.
I know. I'm thinking about how I need to build in more of that into the discussion because it's like picking faucets. Like having window treatments, at least in some of the rooms, is going to be a necessity. So like, why wouldn't I also build that in? And I think that's like it's kind of a gap or a miss in the process, but it is part of that sales strategy.
It's kind of overwhelming. And honestly, too, the reason I'm realizing because I tend to wait is because we are doing this so early in construction. We can't really measure the windows yet, right? So I have to wait for if we're casing for that to happen or the drywall to get put in.
That's for the actual order. I mean, don't you think you can get close enough that it wouldn't change the price?
Like with overall window size.
Yeah, with drawings. You're right. Yeah.
Like we could probably
like
get
I wouldn't order based on drawings until it's physically in existence, but like I could take the order and not
expect,
or take their money and hold it until we can measure.
Like a per square foot cost would be kind of close.
Like grayware, which we sell, like if it's within an inch, it doesn't affect the cost.
Right. Yeah. So I could be basing it off of
like the window schedule. Yeah, if you took the window schedule, you could do it. Probably.
I just haven't wanted to because it is a lot of work and it's like I'm just kicking the rock down.
I'm kind of worried that I will miss the change on the dimensioning and order the wrong size. Or I have it written up in a certain way.
But if you don't order it.
If you're just putting together like hey, it's between X and Y, and we're building that X to Y number into I'm almost imagining just like an initial spreadsheet. I'm like live real time imagining this. It's just like, here's your whole window schedule. I'm imagining Roman, draperies, cellular for whatever, like, and just go down that line and then a range of costs and showing them that number and saying, what would you change or cut or move or whatever? Like, if you don't want that guest bedroom to have anything fancy, I'll change that from a Roman to a cellular if that means your bedroom keeps. I'm almost imagining like this is just an overall number. We need to throw in this line item into your other budget we've built for you. So that way we don't miss this later.
Yeah, I think from an overall, like a high level early conversation, that would work. But I'm thinking like when you're presenting each room's furniture, you're presenting the window treatment with it. And you can get a close enough cost to have you at least covered. And
let's make it like an accountability goal.
Okay.
Start doing this.
I'm trying to find out a way to make it stay because we've all photographed spaces that we don't like because it's just raw naked windows and it's just missing softness or personality. And sometimes they're gorgeous windows, but like I'm not a I'm not freaking Hunter or not. What's their Milgard? Like, I'm not Milgard. I'm not selling that photo of a naked window in a catalog somewhere. I'm trying to sell the fully finished version of that window.
Mm-hmm.
And your client doesn't want a naked window. Like, I know we've all gotten burned on getting to the end and a client doesn't like the way what the window treatments cost.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they feel blindsided. Maybe we didn't do enough education up front, which is what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, oh, well, the project's, again, unphotographable.
Yeah.
And they don't have privacy or light control or whatever it is, or both.
Or both. It's or both.
Yeah. I like figuring that out somehow.
Me too.
So now that you're sort of a couple years out on the sales process of just like learning how to bring up these discussions, are there any like aha moments that you've had of like what you've had to change or adapt, or any learnings that you've grown with?
I'm sure. Probably. Right now, I'm learning. Rebecca and I were just talking about this the other day, actually, learning how to account for shipping, receiving, delivery, and how to write that in, because I take it all up front. So
more accurately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think those costs have gone up and I didn't charge accordingly for that in the last install I did. So just trying to do that better. You know, I'm always trying to do everything better than I did the time before. So it's just getting it to be more efficient.
Like reflecting on each project as it completes and
exactly
really looking at it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like scheduling a debrief for yourself internally.
Yeah.
Like, let's write down all the stuff that worked or didn't work. Let's look back at that. Ouch. Like, where did we miscalculate? Receiving or whatever. Like,
and I should probably do that with my team member who handles all things procurement. Her name's also Jen, and it's super confusing.
Easy.
It's easy and confusing for people.
Yes. As a Sean married to a Sean, yes.
Not at all confusing. Yeah. So, yeah, it's definitely, now that we've done a couple, we need to have a sit down and kind of go over what can be better next time. So.
Yeah.
How do you feel like this process has helped your overall business? Like, do you have any increase? I don't know, any idea of like how much it's helped?
Yeah. So I think the second I started posting, because Instagram was my number one, get it out there, right? Like the rest of us. The second I started posting furnished spaces, I started getting work for furnished spaces.
Oh, people funny how that works out.
Marketing is so weird. You show them what you want.
Crazy. And people are like, I love that. I want that in my home. Cool,
yeah.
Let's do that. So that's when it really took off. And it's been pretty amazing.
Yeah, that's why I'm always like frustrated or talking about getting photographs, because it really, like, until you can photograph the thing that you want to sell more of, it's really hard to get that thing. So it's really like finding, for hotties who haven't been able to get into furnishing yet, I mean, you just need to find the first one. You just need to find one person to trust you.
Living room. We had a sectional, an ottoman, 2 little armless chairs, and it did everything for me. And the next one was a really big one. It was my only photo shoot for that year. That was it. I think 2023. It was my only photo. It was huge. It was a huge 2-day shoot, but like, it got me the job that we just shot last week, you know? So
it was featured in magazine.
No, it was
that's not the one?
it was very collective. And
that's your Redstone?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's like the goal, right? Like how do we do that better? How do we do that again and different and better and all that? So
I have lately started being like the squeaky wheel when I'm working on projects. I'm just like, oh, I'd really love to furnish this dining room for you. It could be so beautiful. Like, even if it wasn't part of the original scope, I'm just like, let's try to get the next thing. And I do think there's a little bit of like putting your ego aside, because the weird part for me of just saying that is like, I know they're going to sit in this dining room. The need is that they are still going to have to be here. And they're bringing this like tiny thing from their first apartment or something. They've drug around 4 houses that's not significant from IKEA or something. And it's just like, I know they're going to get there eventually. And now I'm just trying to focus on getting past myself of it's like, you're not needy. You're asking for something that you would like to do, telling them you'd like to do it and offering help. And they have full control over whether they say yes or no. It's not like there's that ickiness of selling things.
Salesperson, but they may not know that you would do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really great approach, honestly. If you don't have it in your initial contract and you're in the space and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so good. What are you thinking for a dining table? Because I saw this one on my site the other day that is like, it's to die for. Can I show it to you? Maybe just put together a board for you.
Oh my God, fantasy. That's your thing. You're selling the like, wouldn't this be gorgeous? Wouldn't this be amazing?
It
paint a picture.
is. Yeah, exactly. I was going to mention another good way to get people on board is my contractors that I work with know that this is a big step in our process. So a lot of times, the client goes to the contractor first and they'll plug me and say, hey, we only work with designers. This project needs a designer. We have Jen over here. She does require furnishing and, but we really encourage you to talk to her. So it's getting your team on board too.
Yeah. I recently sent my investment guide out to a few of the past contractors that I enjoyed working with that I would love to get more business from, but I sent them my investment guide, not so they could share it with clients, but so like they could know what I do more and like see more of what I'm asking for clients up front, because a lot of them, and this is like on me, a lot of them don't know. Some of them I'm bringing, actually most of them, I'm the one telling the client, here are a few people to call. So they don't see any of that onboarding I've done. All they see is like my project documents and my binders and that kind of stuff, which is great, but they don't know the whole process of how I got started with someone and establishing minimums and like how that is part of my business. And I've had more conversations with a lot of them recently of like how important it is for me to make better margins on projects, and it's fostering more discussion with them about that. So I feel like removing that barrier between us as business people has been helpful of like, yes, we are all just trying to have successful businesses. How do you make money? Here's how I make money.
How can we help each other?
And selling them too on having a completed space, because sometimes they need those pictures as much as we do, right?
Yeah.
So
they need them to be just as happy to provide a reference to the next. Like, hey, I just finished this giant whole home remodel. Great. Can we talk to them? No, actually, they're kind of pissed about the drywall, or they put blue tape on everything. Like, they really want to get a full and finished job as well.
They're going to be able to sell, like if they see a finished, if a client lead sees a fully finished photographed project, it's going to sell way easier than some
contractor
iPhone
photos.
Snaps.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Like they wiped down the counter and took a couple snapshots. Like, it does something, but it's definitely not selling the same.
It works for some people, but I feel like contractors starting out or contractors who are trying to get into a higher end market, they need those professional shots.
Yeah, because they depend on that total overhead and profit number they're setting. It's got to be much bigger to justify doing the projects that they're doing instead of chasing a bunch of small stuff all over town.
And it's the clients that want that are going to be the ones that are a better fit for them. Yeah, I like that. Like, I think it is a good reminder to just remember to update your lead generators. So whether it's contractors, other designers, friends in the community, or past clients, like sending them an update if there's something you're doing differently is a good practice to do once in a while.
And I feel like I could build this in my flow desk or something. Like, here's what we've been, like a contractor segment of my flow desk, or like my referral sources, if it's like realtors or other people. It's like creating a segment where I can just talk to them of like, here's what we've been working on, here's what's different. But it is still, like this is our new ideal project, or this is our new ideal budget. Here's some recent things we've finished. Like, here's a link to my guide or whatever. If you want to start, like, we'd love to talk with you, or if you've got people, like, I feel like I could make it organized and easy to do instead of just like writing a long form email that's just like 18 bullet points or something that they're probably not going to read. But like we said, no one reads anything.
No one reads things, guys.
But if it's written to like, hey, I work with you guys really closely, and this is why I'm only sharing this with you, like it's valuable to kind of get the feelers out there to everybody that we can.
You know, it's good. We got to market ourselves in that way.
I know. Get past the ick.
I know. I hate it, but
but also I love successful businesses and successful projects and money. So
all of the above.
Well, that's how we can be successful and keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It keeps it sustainable, honestly. And I know I'm happier when it's a full done project.
Absolutely.
You can close it out and it's just everything's there. It's done.
I love it.
The next.
Done.
Done and done. Jen, thank you so much for sharing so transparently with our listeners today and the hotties. We will definitely put the link to the sales system, the coach that you worked with, in the show notes. And
Jen's work.
Yes. And Jen, tell the hotties where they can follow along with you.
Follow me on my Instagram at Jennifer Ramsey Interiors. And I think that's about it. That's all I use.
We'll leave the website.
Yeah, JenniferRamseyInteriors.com.
A very pretty new website.
Yes.
Oh, guys.
Oh, I know. Well, thank you for doing this with us. I'm so proud of you. I love watching your growth. You're doing amazing.
You're doing great, sweetie.
You are.
Find yourself some hotties. It's worth
Absolutely.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. Of course. And until next time,
stay hot, designers.
Thanks for listening to the Hot Young Designers Club podcast.
For more on what we talked about today, check out the show notes.
Your support helps us grow, so share with your design besties.
And subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts.
Our conversations continue on Instagram.
And be sure to download our monthly resources on our website and our Patreon.